This video is for rotations, again, using the algebraic rules. So here's a coordinate plane, and it's showing you how they have rotated the figure through all the rotations here. And so you can see how the point stays in the same relative position to the origin. And so remember that clockwise is if I rotate this direction, counterclockwise is if I rotate that direction. And so here's our rules. And so some of the rules are the same depending on what you're doing. So a 90-degree clockwise rotation. So 90 degrees, if I start here at B and I go 90 degrees clockwise, I would go one quadrant here. It would end up at C. But if I do 270 degrees counterclockwise, if I start at B, I would rotate 3 quadrants. So 1, 2, 3, and I'd end up here at C again. It would be in the same position. So that's why these two rotations are the same right here, whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise is what makes the difference. So we're going to use the rules. So 180 degrees clockwise, whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise, the points stay the same. We just change the sign. So the 10 would become a -10 and the 5 would become positive. All right, 90 degrees counterclockwise. So that's this rule. So I'm going to take the Y and I'm going to stick it in the X position, but I'm going to change the sign, and then the X stays the same. It just moves over to the Y position. So here's 270 degrees counterclockwise. So in this one, I just take the Y and move it to the X position. But when I move the X, I've got to change the sign. So if it's a -3, it becomes a +3. If it's 360 degrees, it's just the exact same point. And then 90 degrees clockwise, I'm taking the Y and sticking it in the X spot. I'm taking the X, changing the sign, and sticking it in the Y position. All right, so let's see which rotation it's going to be. If I go from quadrant 1, so if I go from here to here, there's 2 different rotations I could do. If I go clockwise, I'm moving 1 quadrant, so that's 90 degrees. And so that would be a 90-degree counterclockwise. Or I could go from quadrant 1 to quadrant 2 by moving clockwise, and I would move 1, 2, 3 quadrants. So that's the 270 degrees clockwise. All right, point 3, 5. So 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, about there. That would be point J. Let's see, we're reflecting it. This one we're reflecting into quadrant 3. So if I take it here, I think that should say rotated. So let's change that. Rotated into quadrant 3. So if I go to quadrant 3, I've got to go 1, 2 quadrants. And if I go the other way, 1, 2 quadrants, that's 180 degrees. And it doesn't matter whether it's clockwise or if it's counterclockwise. All right, point X is -6, -1. And so here we can use the rules. So what I've done is I've rotated it to 1, -6. So I've taken the Y and I've made it the X, and then I've changed the sign. And so that would be this rule here. Clockwise, counterclockwise. And then in this one, I've taken the Y and I've just stuck it in the X spot. And so that would be this rule here. And then you can see that I've taken the X, changed the sign, made it negative, and stuck it in the Y position. So that's 90 degrees clockwise or 270 degrees counterclockwise. So that's it for this video.